dead. Alright. Hello, everyone. This is Chris Ingerson, and it is October 20th, and this is the October 20th TextQuest Devstream. So, today we are going to be working on some more conversation system stuff. In particular, we're going to be working on a couple of enhancements to the existing system. I have a couple of things that I've done since the last stream, which admittedly has been a while. It's been about 2 weeks, I think. A week and a half. And what we're going to be doing today is, so you can see here that we now have a little bit more of a fade in, fade out as the conversation comes on screen. If you don't say anything, then you get this little "you were very rude" message. We can go ahead and talk again. We get everything showing up. And then I'm going to go ahead and click on King. We'll get our topic again. It'll update the label for the character. I am not particularly crazy about how it's doing it right now. I really wanted to avoid having a series of strings that I input here, but I may end up having to do that for just to get things to display properly. Unfortunately, it seems like if you have underlined text and you try to fill everything in by revealing characters, not by adding characters, it aligns everything to the left where it's going to be originally, and simultaneously it will show one extra space of underline, which is not good visually. So I gotta try to figure out a better way to do that. But the main thing is we do have a little bit more of a nice flow to this. We can go ahead and go back again. You'll see that we have some sort of conversation history going on. That's all nice. If we talk to them again, you'll see that their full name is displayed this time because we already have the logic setting or saying that we've learned that information. So the next thing, or the next things that I would really like to do, and by the way, this is all cleaning up properly. Although I am curious about this. I don't know what that is. Let's take a look at that. They might not be recycling. Right after I said that it's recycling properly. Let's see. Conversation area. Scroll view. Gradient content. Well, no. Oh, that's what that is. Okay. Those red lines are just the conversation history in the input view. So if I were to, I don't really want to turn this off because that's going to break things. But if I were to move the input to be above it, and we were to just to have fun, slide this over, you can see that that's where that should be. So, all right, let's go ahead over here. All right, let's put everything back where it should go. So the next things that I would like to do is I'd like to have a little intro animation. So instead of sliding in off screen facing straight ahead, I would like to have the heads basically just be looking over to the right, implying that they're moving that way, and then give them a little bit of a pose whenever they actually come onto screen. So we're going to be doing art today. So by giving them that little bit of extra polish, it's just going to make the conversations feel a little bit more lively. And we'll do the same thing when we hit back. Instead of having them just slide out like that, we'll have the avatar actually change animations a little bit. Okay, so let's go ahead. I think that's just going to say you were very rude again. Yeah, so there we go. It's because the label showing the history is made to be flat, so it does that fun little error. It's not an error, though. It's fine. All right, so in our actual character, our conversation data, I have 2 new animation fields. I have not set these up to actually be used, so we're going to be doing that today. And before we do anything else, I am going to go ahead and say I'm going to add create folder. This is going to be for face left. And this one I don't really need to do much. I'm just going to go ahead and say create SOS, text quest, ASCII, conversation animation. Let's say conversation ASCII. Face left. And I'm probably going to go ahead and change these titles a little bit so they're slightly more indicative of their name or of what they're affecting. So I'm going to call this King ASCII face left. I'll go ahead and change this as well. King ASCII face left. King ASCII talk. Okay. And all this is going to do is we're going to add a ASCII animation for the head and the eyes and the mouth. I guess we're going to have to do all three of those. They're basically going to be the exact same thing as shake head. So I could probably actually just duplicate these three. Oh, give it a second. Move them up to here. So I'm going to say face left. And we just need this to be 1. And we just need this to be 1. Oh yeah, and this is going to be called face left. Okay. Face left. These are not going to loop. That's probably okay. So we're going to go ahead and shorten this down to 1. It's going to be face left. Alright, so these are going to, oh, right, I should rename these two. So face left. Face left. Alright, so we have our eyes, our head, and totally did the wrong one there. Let's try that again. Head, and then our mouth, frame rate of 1. I'm going to call this face left. Alright, we're going to come down to here, and I'm going to go ahead and add this to our list. I'm also going to go ahead and we are just going to duplicate shake head here. I'm going to rename everything, and this is going to be called face right because we want to do the same thing. Alright, so it's going to be face right. Go ahead and get this set up. And actually, while I'm working on that, I can add this. So this will be intro animation. I'm going to add an outro animation. We'll say it's moving off screen. All right. I don't think there's two outro or T's in outro animation. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and let that compile, and I'm going to continue renaming these real quick. So it's going to be face right. It's going to be face right. All right. The real question here is, did this reference the old animation? Yeah, it definitely is, because they would have been renamed. So, all right. Give that a second to recompile. Alright. So, we're going to go ahead and put this over here. Kaboom. Make you 1. It's going to be face right. Okay. We're going to copy all of this. Move you up to here. Make this 1. Make this face right. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and move up to here. Same thing. Copy this. Paste you. 1 frame. Face right. Alright. Now we can go ahead and do this. Eyes, head, and mouth. This is face right. We're going to go ahead and come down here. We're just going to add face right. Alright. So now we can come over here to conversation data. And we're going to add our face left for our intro. Oh, wait. I'm sorry. Conversation. That's what we want. So it's going to be face left, face right. All right. So those are our intro and outro animations, and we can set those up real quick. The pose animation is going to be a little bit more complicated because I want I want a couple of more advanced effects to take place while that animation plays. So, for example, um, the pose is meant to be this kind of flourish, like the characters will come in from off screen using their intro animation, and then when they finish moving on screen, they'll do a little pose, and that could be anything from like a wink to I don't know, a smile or whatever. And for the king, I would like sparkles to happen using Octothorpe's the hashtag symbol, and for that, it's going to be a little bit different because I'm going to need to use a combination of regular animation and ASCII animation. Because the actual hashes that I want to use for the sparkle effect, for like the twinkling, I don't know if it's going to be hashes. I just think hashes will work. I may end up changing that to like asterisks. Um, Point being, those aren't going to change their position or their content, so we don't really need to do ASCII animation for them. Instead, what I need to do is I need to scale their font size because I want them to sort of fade up from nothing and then fade up to their max and then fade back down. Now, I haven't set the system up yet, so there are a couple of ways I can do it. One is to use the built-in Unity animation system, which would allow me to basically sort of preset the sparkles, and then I can just play an animation on them to drive their font size. The second would be to make them ASCII animations, and it would still be the same in the sense that I would have the labels use ASCII art. I would just manually size them, and the difference there is that one method would be much more gradual. I could use a sort of a lerp from 0 to 1, and the ASCII art approach would be much more chunky. It would be like 0 to 0.25 to 0.5 to 0.75 to 1. And I can kind of do that with a regular system anyway, so it might be good for me to just use the built-in Unity animation system, which is going to complicate things a little bit, but we can get it done. All right, so let's go ahead and set up the intro animation to be used. So we're going to come over here to conversation view. We don't need to refresh name. I'm going to come over here to spawn avatar, which should be called an open. Yep. And then we're going to have our tween view sections. We're going to go to definition. All right. So if we are tweening in, then basically what I want to do is I want to say current, sorry, avatar. Yeah. Hold on. Controller. Nope. What did I do? Animator. Yeah. Dot. I've forgotten my own code. There it is. Start animation. Okay, and then we're gonna do data dot intro animation dot animation. Actually, I don't even need to do that. I can just do that. Okay, we don't need a callback. We're just gonna go ahead and tell it to start that animation, and then once we get to this is actually different too. So we want to say if tween in. We're gonna do that, and then else. We're basically gonna do the opposite. We're gonna say outro animation. Okay, and that's all we really need to do right now. But before I do anything else, I am going to go ahead and say to do pose animation. All right. So now if we play, we should get the face left animation. And then when we're opening up the menu and then when we're closing it, we should get the face right animation. Mm-hmm. So we're going to go ahead and let that go. second. All right, so let's go ahead and say talk. Oh, right. For now, actually, I guess this should just play the idle animation. So we're gonna go ahead and just say if tween in. We're gonna say let's go ahead and copy this. It's gonna be idle animation. I should also probably change the eyes to be open. If it, lets me. If it feels like it. All right, so I'm gonna probably change this to be 0, 0, and face right is just gonna be 0, 0. Go ahead and save that. I also have something else I wanted to test. Do I have that? I just got the show asset field. All right, I should probably add that. I should probably change the ASCII reveal. Oh, did I also make these GUIDs? Oh, good, I did. I should probably make this. Oh, okay. Don't know what happened. What's going on here? I should probably make this right click also allow me to select the animation instead of just having the field here for the animator. It would be good for me to be able to right click and select this actual animation. That's the thing for after this test. Give it time. Can't rush these things. Talk. Facing right. And boom. All right. Now the question is, are you going to loop? Let's find out. If it feels like it. Yay! There we go. All right. So that's pretty good. Let's go ahead and hit back, and we go off screen. Nice. And let's go ahead and try talking again. On screen, off screen. Cool. We're going to say king. Let's go ahead and close. All right. Nice. So that is working. So cool. Go ahead and try talking. Close this. Make sure that everything got recycled correctly. Okay. Sorry, I'm kind of like going through making sure that we properly cycle everything. All right, I just wanted to make sure that everything got cleared up properly. All right, so now that does seem to be working. We should next work on our introduction text. So we have a field allowing for introduction text to be shown, and what should happen there is I would like it when you start talking with someone, if there's any introduction text here, it's going to try to basically show that message. Probably what I'm going to need to do in the long run is treat it similar to the names, in the sense that we have a default value and then a override value that can have data associated overrides. So for example, the first time you talk to the king, it might say like, the king introduces himself and whatnot. But the second time you talk to the king, you wouldn't necessarily need him to introduce himself again, so it would probably give you something different, like the king said. I almost knocked my headset off. Oh, hello, the real Kleinba. Welcome back. How you doing today? But yeah, so the second time you talk to the king, you wouldn't necessarily need that the king introduces himself line. Instead, you'd have something else like the king is sitting on his throne or whatever. So probably after we get the introduction text set up, we would do something similar to names. And honestly, the same thing can be true for default, where the default response can also have data overrides, and I could see that being if you like piss off a character. You know, so before you do that, do something to annoy a character. Maybe they're collegiate and they're just like they look at you puzzlingly if you say something they don't understand. But then after you make them angry, they'll be like, just ellipsy. That's it. Uh, so let's go ahead and let's get the introduction text working. So to start, we're gonna want to go over to conversation view, and then we're going to want to say a couple of things actually before I do anything else. I'm gonna come up to here, private void on intro animation finished. No, I'm sorry, not intro animation, on pose animation finished. We're just gonna do this. Kapow. The next thing we need to do is pretty much there, actually. So I guess what we'll do here is we'll call on animation finish. I don't know, honestly, if I want... you know what, actually, that's fine. Not on animation finished. On pose animation finished. That's what I want. Yeah, the apply tween stuff needs to go above our callback methods for code consistency. All right. So we're going to come back down here to here, and all I'm going to do now is say that we need to add the topic. So I don't want to call check topic. I want to call just the logic that happens in response to it. Okay, so response section is basically going to be all of this, I think. Oh, you know what? Okay. So the intro is not going to be shown in the log because I don't think the intro needs to be shown in the log. So we don't need this section JSON section, but we do need to add it to the sections. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this bit. Come down to here, paste this here, and then at the very end, go ahead and copy this, come down to here. All right. Output. That is, oh, right, that's not what we need. So we need the text, which is going to be data.introduction text. We don't. Oh, actually, that's a good point. All right. All right. So we're going to change this to data.idle animation. That means we don't need to do this. And instead, we're going to say data.introduction is introduction is speaking. Okay. I think we're good there. And for this, we basically want to do the same thing. Animation.isValid. This I don't really. I guess this would be introduction. This would be data.introduction animation dot is valid. Then actually no, that's not right. We don't need this. We don't need this. This is going to be if that is speak. Okay, yeah, here we are. So we're going to get rid of this. And we're going to say, get rid of you. We're going to come down to here, paste this here, say introduction is speaking. If so, we are going to do the talk animation. Otherwise, we're going to do the idle animation. Okay. That's what we want to do there. And we should be good. All right. So let's go ahead and talking finished. So all that should work. You know, this might be an if-else statement, honestly. Instead, so let's say change this a little bit. Play talk animation if the intro text is speaking, or well, is supposed to be spoken. Okay, so I'm just going to do an if statement, or if-else statement here. I'm going to say if because I don't think this is ever going to really happen. All right. Yeah, okay, I got it. So we're going to go ahead and say if data introduction is speaking, then we're going to say something else. Okay, so we're going to copy this, we're going to paste this over here, and we're just going to change this to be the talking animation, and then on animation finished, and then we're going to go ahead and come over to here, we're going to change this to just be the idle animation without on animation finished, and then we're going to copy this, and we're going to paste this here, and otherwise it's going to be null. Okay, gotcha. Why don't you like it? Really? Do I have to wrap you? Or are you just never going to do it? Really? Now? Well, that's annoying. That means that I basically have to do this. Right. Yeah, right. Means I have to do this. Okay, so these are just going to be null. Okay, so let's try this real quick. And what should happen is when we're finished with our introduction animation, it should just go straight into idle. And it should also show the... Actually, no, it should go into talking animation real quick while the introduction text is spoken there. And then I'm going to uncheck that introduction is speaking for the next text, or for the next test. And that will let us know if we are going to, well, if everything's working the way that it should. All right, done compiling. Let's come to here. Try talking. All right, and we went straight into the idle, and everything works. Nice. Let's go ahead and try smart. All right, nice. Let's go ahead and turn this off. I'm going to turn introduction is speaking off, and we're going to try this. Okay, talk. Nice. All right, so both of those are working. We now have introduction is speaking working as well as the introduction text. Um, Next, we should probably get the. Do I want to work on overrides next, or do I want to work on? Man, what really sucks about this is like every single one of our animations could have an override actually that gets played based on data. So everything has to have overrides. That's so convoluted. Oof. That's gonna make things very difficult. Okay. Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, real quick, I'm gonna go ahead and come over here to conversation avatar data, I think. Yeah. We're gonna go to ASCII animation selector. We're gonna go to definition here, and then I'm gonna go ahead and right click, find all references. We're gonna go to its custom property drawer. Okay. And then I'm also gonna go ahead and write a quick comment here. Convenience class for selecting ASCII. Oh, hello, Jacob Shrimp. How long have I been working on it? The whole game has been worked on for about 5 years now. 3 years ago, I scrapped all the art that I had and redid it, and I've been kind of working my way back up since then. Um, the art is a lot better, and the level design is a lot more intuitive than it used to be, but it does take time, obviously, for me to recuperate all of those losses that I scrapped. So we're finally back to about where we were before I scrapped everything in terms of actual level content. And everything looks and feels a lot better. So, yes, the collapsing bridge, which is in the canyon area. That's where the wizard shows up and just like traps you in a box, cuts the bridge down, and then runs around on you. Hold on, ASCII animations. So, how many hours per week? It is pretty variable. I try to do around 2 to 3 hours a day if I can, um, because I have a full time job that takes up most of my day, obviously, and then I come home and work on this. And because I have a job that potentially requires me to stay late every now and then, it's hard for me to give like I will work on this every week for this many hours estimates. It's much more like I try to do 2 to 3 hours a day, but that doesn't always end up happening. All right, so this is going to be. I'm going to go ahead and comment some of this. So this is going to be good for the target ASCII animator. And this is the display name for the target ASCII animation, which, now that I think about it, does not really give me any sort of. Ooh. Uh, I should probably change this to an actual GUID now that I think about it. Huh. Well, for now. Go ahead and say to do add a GUID reference to easy name changes. Okay. We're going to go ahead and pop back to here, and all I'm going to do is I should just need to override one function here. Refresh asset reference, refresh labels. I think I can just say override. I think it's like create generic menu. Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and peek at this. I'm going to copy all of this fun stuff. Paste this right here. And all I'm going to do is we're going to do this, and then I'm going to go ahead and add a new menu.add item. Oh, actually, fun. Uh, so I should be able to. Of course, I don't have the full property. Oof. Give me a second here. I'm gonna peek back at this. I'm pretty sure that this is all in the actual base reference editor, peak definition. I'm just gonna go to definition because this is very annoying to look at. Asset reference draw, asset field. Yeah, so we're gonna go to base reference drawer, go to definition, and we're gonna say, I need my create generic menu script. Yeah, so this is the parent property in its entirety. I guess that's okay. I don't know if I should just pass in my target property there, honestly. It might be okay to not do so. Well, nah. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and pop back here. And I'm going to say if property dot find property relative target field dot string value. We're going to go ahead and say string dot is null or empty. So if not that, then we are going to add a new menu item. So we're going to say menu dot add item, new GUI content, select animation, false delegate. All right. So I need to pass in, let's go ahead and say show asset callback, which I think is in the base function, so I'm going to need a new one down here. Let's see, draw target field, right here. So we're going to go ahead and say private void select animation, and that's going to pass in a string value. Well, we'll say display name and then a serialized property, asset property. All right. So in this case, we're just going to go ahead and say, well, actually, you know what? I don't even need to do that. I can just straight up make this a. Actually, nope. I lied. Yep, I do have to pass that information in. All right. So we're going to go ahead and pass in pow. It's going to be select animation this followed by asset property. Okay. And then what we're going to do down here is we're going to say asset property dot get object reference, and this is going to be an ASCII animator. Actually, no, it's going to be an ASCII animator controller, which probably means this ASCII animator controller. There we go. Now we're going to come back down to here, and this is going to give us our actual controller reference, and then I'll be able to say, oh man, for int I equals 0, I is less than, animator controller dot animations dot length I plus plus, and we're going to say if animator controller dot animations of I dot display name is equal to display name, then we're going to go ahead and return, and I'm going to say editor utility dot, not that, I'm sorry, it's editor GUI utility. Editor GUI utility dot ping object, and we're just going to grab this. Whew. All right. So now, if we let that compile, all of this should compile, and I should be able to right-click and get a different field. So give that a second. I'm going to take a drink. All right. So once that's compiled, we should be able to right-click on those labels, and there should be a new menu option that basically says select animation, and we should be able to use that to ping the animation. Or not. Really, really? Oh, right. Because that's the GUID. So we don't want to do this. Instead, we want to say, do I have a GUID thing? No. Okay, so this is just a string value that I need. So instead, I need to do this. Asset database dot load asset at path. Then it's going to be the animator controller again. And then we're going to say asset database dot GUID to asset path, and then we're going to pass this stuff in. It's a little bit more complicated, but it'll work. So this is going to be string value. There we go. Let's try that again. I forgot. I recently started switching for these types of properties where values are dependent on a referenced asset. I started switching over to a GUID workflow. So instead of storing a direct reference to that object, which would then load it into memory when the scene loads, instead what I do is I just store its GUID ID, which is just a string, and then I can store that, which is much cheaper. And then I don't use actual references within the asset or within the property to do anything with that asset. Instead, I just store the values I need, and then I have a third-party reference to the asset that I'm trying to affect. It keeps things a little bit more lightweight. All right, so now I should be able to say select animation. There we go. And you can see that we now have everything popping up. Cool. So I can do both of those things. Isn't that nice? And this doesn't let me right click, which is what I want. And if I were to, for the sake of argument, I'm going to go ahead and pull this in. We're going to keep it at none. Nice. And if it's got none, you'll see that it just says, it doesn't even show that option. Cool. Well, isn't that nice? Actually, you know what? I guess I probably should just go ahead and do this. Well, should I? Because I would be getting the value twice. Well, either way. Nah, it's all right. I'll just leave it as is. I was going to try to get fancy with it and change this false. Actually, that wouldn't help me anyway. Now that I think about it, because I think I can basically just say, yeah. So never mind. Yeah, this is good. I was going to try to gray it out, but that gets weird. So okay, we're going to go ahead and let that compile, and we're good. So now let's go ahead and assign our animation for pose, and let's try to get that set up. Let's see. How do we want to handle this? So this is going to change a little bit because now we are going to need to have a reference to a couple of things, really. Let me come back down here to conversation data. So now I'm going to need to have a kind of separate animation system. I'm going to go ahead and pull this up. So we have this. I'm just going to throw an image in here so we can make things a little bit easier for us. Just like do that so it's a little bit easier to see. All right. So what we would need, and to give you a sense of what I'm trying to do here, I'm going to go ahead. I'm just going to make a new label here. So this is going to be, actually, it's not even going to be that. We're going to need a new game object here. this stretch to be the whole thing. I'm going to call these like shine sparkles. We'll call this sparkle 01. Let's go ahead and give us our 8-bit font. We're going to have it be centered and centered. We're going to have it be the Octothorpe. Asterisk. You know, honestly, it's really hard to know which one would be preferable. I guess the asterisk is a little bit more preferable. We're going to give it just like a, I don't know, 50 by 50. It's about right. Let's go ahead and grab our label here. Copy this color. Come back to here. Kapow. All right, we're just going to like put this on the crown, kind of in a variety of places. And the difficulty here comes from the fact that we need to hand position these, which is not the worst idea. The problem comes when we start doing animations. We have to be careful about what we do and don't show. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and rename these real quick. Sparkle 2, Sparkle 3, Sparkle 4. Go ahead and set these up. 1, 1, 1. Okay, and so the idea here would be basically that we would change our font size from, oh, we can go negative, that's interesting. That causes all sorts of problems. So we'd go from basically 0 to like that, and back, and then back, and then back, and we would randomize which ones are getting played. I think we started at like 36. So we would need to animate that, and we would have to, we'd have to have a separate animation for each sparkle, now that I think about it. Oh boy. And it might be easier. Well, no. I'm trying to think of a way to simplify this. If we use the built-in Unity animation system, I have to have a separate animation for each sparkle, which isn't the worst thing ever, but it's tedious. Alternatively, I could have a list of the labels, and then I could shrink them down to 0 and just randomly pick one to do a little coroutine on. That would be fine. But then if I want to do anything other than a coroutine, or other than just scaling it, I have to have behaviors that get evaluated. And that's not the worst, I guess, because then I could do scriptable objects, which would fit more in line with the system. So, okay, yeah. That does complicate things, though. All right, so we have our ASCII animation. This wouldn't really be ASCII animation. It's more like font animation, I guess, or label animation. And that gets a little bit difficult to really parse. So, what to do here? Okay. So what we're going to need to do, I think, is I would want a reference to each of the sparkles and then a behavior driving it, basically. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I think I know what we're doing here then. All right. So this is going to be a little crazy. We're going to go ahead and create a folder here. I'm going to say label animations. So I'm going to go ahead and create C# script, and I'm going to call this ASCII label animation. Yeah, I guess that's the best I can do. Uh, and that's going to be a scriptable object, but then we're going to need a list of data classes, which is going to be like ASCII label parameter, I guess. And that's just going to have sort of an enum and then a series of values that it can use. And then they will be driven based on what is used, I guess, which is a little awkward, but I think we can make it work. All right, so I'm going to call it, I think I'm going to call it ASCII label parameter. Create C# script, ASCII label, oops, I almost spelled it ASCII, ASCII label parameter. Yep, I guess that's good. Just like an animation parameter or an animator parameter. Let's go ahead and let that compile, and it should open up if it feels like it. Let's open up the animation. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and we're going to make this. So the parameter is going to be a struct. It does not. It should never need to change. So we're just going to go ahead and say ASCII. So we're going to make this a struct. It is going to be system.serializable, and we need an enum to start here. So it's going to be parameter data for use in ASCII label animation assets, I guess. We're going to go ahead and make this a scriptable object. Create asset menu, file name, menu name is equal to that. Go ahead and come down over to here. And then let's go ahead and oops. I'm going to come over here to file name, and I'm just going to say ASCII label animation. Menu name is going to be SOS ASCII. Hold on. I'm not remembering off my head. We're going to peek over here. Find all references. Where did I put you? SOS ASCII in animation. All right. ASCII label animation. Animation data for labels used. Well, hold on. Yeah, animation data for labels used in ASCII animations. Blah. All right. And then we're going to go ahead and just say, do I need a public? We'll make it public. Public ASCII label parameter. Parameters. Let's equal to new. Oops. New. There you go. All right. All right. And for this, it's going to be all kinds of different. So we're gonna want a couple of things. One is going to be I'm going to focus primarily on two things to start, which is going to be font size and color. I'm not really going to worry about anything else. I think we can do fine with just those things to start. Once it compiles, I'll be able to check. Any day now. All right. So yeah, color and font size, those are the two things that I really care about. Everything else is pretty whatever. I don't need to worry about it. So we're going to pop over to here. Create. Yawn. I'm going to say ASCII label parameter type. long name, and I hate long names, but it's fine, I guess. Alright, so we are going to, if it feels like it, we're going to make this derived from byte. It's going to be an enum. And we're going to say, none is going to be our default. Color is going to be 5. Font size is equal to 10. That's good for now. Let's see. Determines what is affected in ASCII label parameter values. All right. So next we're going to come up to here. We're just going to go ahead and say public ASCII label parameter type. And then we get the fun stuff, which is going to be public yeah, okay. So it's going to be color gradient colors equal to new gradient, and then public, oh right, it's a struct, so we don't get any of that. Public float start font size is going to be equal to, I don't know, 6, nope, can't do that yet, right. Public float end font size, don't have to worry about that. Alright, so we're going to add 2 functions here. We're going to say public color get color, and we're just going to say float lerp, and then we're going to go ahead and say return colors dot evaluate along lerp. Okay, and I probably should add animation curves to all of this, but it's fine. Next we're going to go ahead and say public float get font size, and we're going to say also return float lerp. I can't spell. I can't type today. We're going to say return mathf dot lerp from start font size to end font size based on lerp. Okay, and now I can come back over to here, and we're going to go ahead and say, it's going to be similar to my animations, where I have to have the animations themselves control these things, won't I? Well, maybe I will, because I could probably I could probably do this instead. So public void apply animation timing on okay using TM Pro, so text TMP text label and then float lerp. So what we could do here is we would just say for int I equals 0, I is less than parameters parameters dot length I plus plus and then I can come back over to here and I can just say public void apply parameter to a TMP. Yeah, we're gonna have to do that. I'm gonna come up to here using TM Pro. We're gonna pass in a TMP label. Sorry, TMP text object. That's right. Label and then a float lerp. And then what I can do is these will be changed to private. And I'll say switch type case we're gonna say color break case this dot break. I'm just gonna say label dot color. Oops. Color is equal to get color lerp, and then label dot font size is equal to get font size lerp. Okay, and now I can come back here and I can just say parameters dot apply. Oh right, parameters of I. Dot apply parameter on the label. Oh, and the lerp. Pretty straightforward. Don't have to worry about it. And now what I can do is I could. Yeah, okay, so that's not going to work because I need to have things like the duration basically take effect. Well, actually, I'm trying to think about how I want to handle this. Because the way that our current system is set up, the animations themselves are controlling the coroutines, and that works. But, well, it would be nice to have consistency here where the animations have a duration, and then the animator just plays for that duration. Yeah, that's probably going to end up being the way that we handle this. Alright, so let's go ahead and I'm going to set, well, hold on. Let's go ahead and go to I'm gonna go to the animation base. Yeah. So I'm gonna need to do this. Basically the exact same thing. Which basically means the exact same thing. Oh no. Um, hmm, hmm. Yeah. Okay. That kind of makes sense. Um, yeah. All right. So this label animation is basically going to derive from ASCII animation base. But we are going to go ahead and come down here. I'm going to say override label coroutine. Come up to here. Let's get everything set up properly. And what I'm going to do here is I'll probably copy a lot of what the base ASCII animation does here. Right. So we don't so much have frames in this, I guess, which is problematic now that I think about it. It's more like we have a length of time. Oh man, that sucks. So I basically need to override a fair amount of this, actually. We don't need frame rate so much as... Well, you know what? Actually, no, we can keep the frame rate. We can keep the loop. Yeah, all this works. So if we want it to be really smooth, all we'll do is we'll up the frame rate to like 60 instead of 1. But so index, we don't really need to worry about index. Instead, we want this to be frame rate. I feel like that's correct. So while loop or this is less than frame rate. Okay. So the text is not going to change. That we don't need to worry about. Instead, we're just going to say apply animation timing, label, and then T. No, it's going to be frame rate divided, no, index divided by frame rate, I think. Frame rate, not frame rater. We're going to convert this to a float. I think that's all I really need to do. All right. So I need to come up to here. I'm going to say using system.collections.generic. I think that might honestly be all we have to do. Okay, so let's go ahead and let that compile. And the difficulty is going to be passing in the sparkle. Because we got to figure out how we're going to pass that in. All right, so we probably have our first variation here. So I'm going to let that compile because I can't do anything until it's finished. Go figure. All right, we're going to go ahead and come down here. I'm going to right click and create folder. We're going to say custom avatars, I guess. That's a terrible override. I don't know what to call this. We're just going to call it avatars, I guess, again. Create C# script. We're going to say King Conversation Avatar. Let's open this up. Alright, so it's going to be in textquest.con. Of course not. This is going to be Conversation Avatar. And we don't really need much here, although I am going to, I guess, make these protected. Definition here, I'm going to drag this over to here. Don't really need you to be like that. And for this, I'm going to go ahead and say, hey, you know what? You're fine. Just go ahead and do that. All right. We're going to also do this. If Unity editor and if. And then we're going to pop back here, and I'm going to go ahead and say using TM Pro. Then we're going to say serialize field tooltips, private, text mesh pro UGUI. We're going to call these sparkle labels is equal to new. They're going to be labels showing sparkles on the king's crown. Okay. And for this, we're going to go ahead and add a header. Sparkle. Okay. And I'm also going to go ahead and say serialize field, tooltip, private, and ASCII. Right. We're going to say using sleepyowl.common. This is going to be our ASCII animation selector. Yeah, so you complicate things, don't you? You do. Well, maybe not as much as I thought. All right, so we're going to say ASCII animation selector. This is going to be our sparkle animation is equal to new. That. So we're going to say ASCII animation to apply to sparkle labels. Okay. And then I'm going to need an animator as well. So we're going to go ahead and say serialize field tooltip. Private ASCII animator sparkle animator is equal to null ASCII animator for the sparkle labels. This is going to be a custom script that I write real quick, but it's going to be pretty simple. It's basically going to be the standard animator, except it's going to just randomly select from those whenever it plays the animation. Okay. So for this, I guess, I guess we'll let this compile. And I'm going to need to set up some animations for this. All right. Perfect. Did it right as it compiled. That's what I like to see. Give that a second. All right, so we have parameters here, and it's going to look ugly to start, but that's fine. Long term, I would like to make this a custom property drawer that shows the color up here, or I'm sorry, the type up here, and then we can hide the fields that we don't need. So this is going to be, I'm going to, all right, I'm going to go ahead and add the color here. Oh, well, that didn't go well. We're just going to go ahead and copy this. And we're going to give this an alpha of 0. We're going to try to strengthen these up. About 10. About 90. Yoink. Okay. So that's going to be 1, and we're going to go ahead and have a second parameter. That's going to be our font size. And it is going to have a start font size of 0 and an end font size of 30. And this is where we get into the curve, because I need the curve to evaluate linearly for the color and along a bell curve for the font size. So we're going to pop back over to there. So we're going to come up to here. We're going to say public animation curve. And then all we do is we're just going to go ahead and say get color curve dot evaluate along lerp. Okay, pretty straightforward. We don't need to worry about anything else here. All right, and that once that compiles should be a little bit easier. We're gonna go ahead and give this the name Crown Sparkle, I guess. We'll also give it a frame rate of 60. And this is where it's going to. Oh, that complicates things immensely. This is locked to 1 second. Now that I realize that, as in it will always take 1 second for them to complete because they're subdividing the second by the frame rate. Shoot. Um, well, shoot. Okay. This probably means I need to change that a little bit. So the label animation itself needs to change. So instead of index is less than frame rate, because you can, here's the problem. Um, t plus equals time dot delta time times frame rate, which means that we're gonna rapidly get up there. I need to instead change that to duration. Yeah. 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 So we're gonna go up here and I'm gonna say public float duration is equal to 1f. And say tooltip. How long the label animation plays. And this is just going to be times duration divided by that, actually. All right. So now we should be able to do a bell curve for the font size. That's what we want. And our other curve is going to be more of an ease in, ease out situation. Actually, you know what? It's going to be linear. If it feels like it. All right. So let's give it a duration of 1. That shouldn't change anything really. At least I don't think it will. Actually, those things might not be decouplable. Um, as it stands, that means we're going to get 1 second between each frame. It's going to keep going until we get there. So I think I have to do frame rate divided by duration times frame rate divided by duration, I guess. So if it's 60 frames and we want a duration of 2, then that would reduce it to, yeah, okay, so that's what we needed to do. Okay. All right. The next thing I need to do is I need to create SOS text, no, ASCII. I'm going to make it an animator controller, I think. Sparkle. Okay, we're just going to have the one animation. And then I basically need to make a custom version of the conversation avatar. Well, not even that. A custom version of standard animator. So let's go ahead and pop over to here. I'm going to select conversation avatar. We're actually going to add, okay, we're going to cancel that, fine. I'm going to say King conversation avatar. Let's get our labels in here. Head label, eye label, and mouth label. Okay, and then we're going to apply our sparkles here. Ground sparkle. And then our actual animator is going to be a little different. Come down to here. This is poor organization on my part, but I will fix this in a second. So king, crown, I'm really hoping I can get this to work on the first go. Because I'm probably going to end the stream at round 2. So we're going to go here using sleepyout.common, ASCII animator. Alright, let's find all references. And we're going to go over here. I'm just going to go ahead and copy this for the most part. Alright, so this is going to be get animation. We're going to say label. I should have named it label ASCII animation instead of ASCII label animation. Let's see here. We're going to come up to here. I'm going to say using TM Pro. Say serialize field tooltip private TMP text labels is equal to new TMP text blah 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 labels showing sparkle effects. All right, this is going to be start animation, and here is where it gets fun. Because I need to pick a random one to stop. I'm going to peek back here. Find all reference. Really? Find all references. We never store it, because the animation itself should be able to stop it. Okay. Current animation is equal to nothing. Animation cartoon is equal to null. Alright, all we should need to do then is randomly select a label here. So we're just going to say labels of random.range from 0 to labels.length. Okay, so it's going to apply to a random label. That should work. Alright, so let's go ahead and let that compile. I'm going to come over to here, and I'm going to go ahead and assign the King Crown ASCII animator to this parent object. Because there's no real reason for me to put it all the way up to here. All right. If you feel like it. All right, we are going to down to here. We're going to say King Crown ASCII animator. We're going to give it our controller, which is up here. Labels. We're just going to go ahead and lock this. Let's just assign all 4 of these. All right, come back up to here. Unlock you. Collapse you. Actually, before we do that, we're going to go ahead and select all 4 of these. We're going to set their font size to 0. I'm going to come down to here. We're going to assign our animator, sparkle labels. You don't actually need to exist anymore. And I'm going to, this is going to be very complicated, I think. Well, convoluted, not so much complicated. We're going to need to change some logic here. So first things first, this all seems to be good. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this up to here. know that you're going to break. We're going to remove this. Let's go ahead and debug this, make sure that nothing else is kind of going weird. All right, hit OK here. I'm going to have to reassign you, I guess. We can then come up to here. We're going to go to King Conversation Avatar. We don't need sparkle labels anymore. And we don't need you. But we do need to go to Conversation Avatar, go to Definition. And I'm going to add a virtual function, I guess. So we're going to say public virtual. Nope, it's going to be abstract, actually. Void. We're going to say play pose or start pose animation. Start pose animation. And this is going to take a callback, I guess. System.action callback. And that's not going to do anything necessarily. I'm going to go ahead and say null. Then I'm going to say just by default if callback does not equal null, callback.invoke. Pretty straightforward there. We're going to come over here and we're going to say override start pose animation. Don't need you. Don't like it when you do that to me. Callback is equal to null. We're going to keep that there. And instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say sparkle animator dot start animation sparkle animation followed by callback. Okay. And then I am going to come back to here. We're going to play our animation. That's all fine. All right. And then, let's see here. That means that now I need to go down to my actual conversation stuff. So I'm going to collapse some of this. Conversation avatar data. Pose animation. That is different. Okay. So I'm going to get rid of pose animation here. Instead, we're going to have the prefab handle that. Actually, for now, I'm just going to comment it out. I don't think it's going to end up being controlled here, but all right, we're going to go down to intro animation, find all references, come down to here. All right, so if tween in, we're going to say avatar dot start pose animation with on pose animation finished as our callback, and then that should be fine. So let's go ahead and hit play. Well, actually, I'm going to apply this once it compiles. And everything should work in theory. It's a little awkward, but I think it'll work. Sorry, my cat wants attention. Yes, I know, cat. Give that time to compile. All right. So now we can go ahead and hit apply. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this. We're going to come down to here. We're going to turn off our UI. Come over to test character conversation data. Boom, boom, boom. Knew that was going to happen. So we're going to go ahead and apply this real quick. Everything looks good. All right. So let's try this and see what happens. It should sparkle at least once. So let's find out. Well, it did fire once. Ooh, but we don't want it to fire. Oh, that's awkward. Right, right, right. Okay. So I'm gonna actually come up to here, and I'm gonna copy this. Paste this is gonna be just the idle animation for the avatar. We're just gonna call this idle animation, and all we're gonna do here is I'm just gonna say start animation, idle animation. That's all we're gonna do there, because I need it to be in idle position, not face left position. So we are going to let that compile, and then I should get one more little field up here, and then we should be good. Also note that the last animation that we did was targeted at the top right sparkle, it looked like, so the top right of the crown. And we're going to want to set this up to be idle. And it should be random, so there's a decent chance that it'll be one of the other ones. So let's go ahead and try this again. Angel. Hey. My cat is chewing on my rug. You're going to be sick again, cat. All right, so let's go ahead and talk. Okay, so it was still the same one. Let's try this again, see if it happens again. Should be random. Okay, that time it didn't play, which implies that it's probably not cleaning up properly. Yep. All right. Well, it's sort of working. We're gonna go ahead and call that a day for the stream. I have to get ready for something at 2:30. Um, so we have intro and outro animations playing, and we have pose animations starting to play, but they are. Oh, you know what? Actually, I should test real quick. Let's go ahead and make this like 5 seconds so that the twinkle takes longer. Um, so we have animations starting to play, and they're more or less working, but we definitely have some problems. There we go. So it is random, and it does respect duration, which is good. Crap. Yeah, we got to solve the workflow problem for that, or not workflow, but the general flow for that. I don't want it to take quite as long, but I guess I did make it 5 seconds, so 1 second is honestly fine. Anyway, so we're gonna go ahead and end it there for the day. Announcements. I am going to try to be more to actually stick to my streaming schedule this week. There were just a lot of schedule conflicts last week, so I apologize for that. So this coming week, I will try to stick to our normal Tuesday and Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern time, and yeah, we should be good. Trying to think of any announcements off the top of my head. I think we're good. One really advanced announcement: November 2nd, which is a Saturday, I will be showing Text Quest at a local game event. That will be going pretty much all day. I think it's like 10 to 5 on Saturday. So I'll be there. So I won't be streaming that weekend probably. But just as a heads up, I wanted to let people know. All right. So that's a pretty good place to stop for the day. As always, I want to thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you all next time.